The Meridian Empire had spent millennia perfecting the art of diplomatic subjugation. Their first contact protocols were legendary among the 37 species they'd peacefully integrated into their empire. They never needed to fire a shot. Their technological superiority was usually enough to convince any rational species to accept their terms of protection. When their long-range scouts discovered Earth and the Orion Arm, Supreme Consul Vexera dismissed it as another routine acquisition. The humans had barely established colonies on their moon and neighboring planet. Their primary energy source was still fusion-based, and their fastest ships couldn't even reach 1% of light speed. The standard protocol would work perfectly. Send in the impressive diplomatic fleet, demonstrate their power through a few harmless but spectacular displays, and watch as another civilization gratefully accepted their guidance. Begin the standard approach sequence. Vexera commanded from the bridge of the Celestial Mandate, the flagship of the diplomatic fleet. 12 crystalline ships, each the size of a small moon, materialized in Earth's orbit, their translucent hulls refracting sunlight in dazzling patterns designed to inspire awe. The first sign that this wouldn't be a typical first contact came when the humans failed to respond with the expected mix of fear and reverence. Instead, every military installation on the planet went dark, their energy signatures vanishing as if they'd been powered down. The civilian networks erupted with activity, but not panic. It was coordinated, purposeful. Curious response, muttered First Observer Kaylin, her silver eyes narrowing at the data streams. They're not following any of the predicted behavioral patterns. Vexera dismissed her concerns. Proceed with the demonstration. Target their largest satellite installation, the one they call the International Space Station. Disable it with a precision burst. Show them how easily we could destroy it if we wished. The beam of energy that lanced out from the Celestial Mandate was meant to simply disrupt the station's power systems. Instead, it encountered something unexpected. A crude but effective electromagnetic shield that scattered the beam harmlessly into space. The humans had somehow anticipated and prepared for this exact scenario. Impossible, Vexera hissed, her crystalline appendages vibrating with agitation. Their technology level couldn't have advanced this quickly. We monitored them for a full solar cycle. The response came not from the expected governmental channels, but was broadcast on every frequency simultaneously. A single human voice, calm and measured. The Meridian Empire, we presume. We've been expecting you. Perhaps we should discuss your approach to diplomatic relations. The transmission continued, laying bare every detail of the Meridian's standard subjugation protocol. Somehow, the humans had intercepted and decoded their secure communications, studied their patterns, and prepared countermeasures. But how? The answer came from an unlikely source: their own historical archives. While monitoring Earth's entertainment broadcasts, the Meridians had inadvertently revealed their own playbook. Humans had been imagining and writing about alien invasions for centuries, creating countless scenarios of first contact gone wrong. They had literally rehearsed this moment through their fiction, gaming, and popular culture for generations. Sir, Kaylin's voice carried an edge of concern. They're powering up something on their lunar surface. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Before Vexera could respond, a massive electromagnetic pulse erupted from the moon's dark side, carefully calibrated to the exact frequency of Meridian shields. 3 diplomatic vessels lost power immediately, their crystalline structures darkening as they began to drift. How? Vexera demanded, watching in horror as the humans launched what appeared to be primitive chemical rockets toward the disabled ships. Their technological level shouldn't allow for this. They didn't advance their technology. Sir, Kaylin replied, her voice filled with dawning understanding. They adapted their existing technology specifically to counter ours. Every piece of fiction, every war game, every disaster scenario they've ever imagined. They turned it all into a preparation for this moment. The primitive rockets split apart mid-flight, revealing sophisticated electromagnetic disruptors, clearly reverse-engineered from studied debris of older Meridian probes. The humans hadn't waited for first contact to begin preparing their defenses. They had been quietly analyzing every piece of alien technology that had ever strayed into their system, building their understanding and waiting. As the diplomatic fleet retreated in disarray, Vexera received one final transmission. Next time, try asking nicely. We're actually quite friendly when not threatened. Oh, and you might want to warn others. Humanity doesn't take kindly to attempted subjugation, diplomatic or otherwise. Safe travels. The Meridian Empire had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed that a species' technological level determined their capability for resistance. They never considered that imagination, preparation, and sheer determination could bridge that gap. In the cycles that followed, the Earth Protocol would become a cautionary tale taught to every Meridian diplomat. Never mistake technological inferiority for weakness, and never ever underestimate humanity's capacity to turn their perceived weaknesses into strengths. The Meridian High Council had never experienced failure in their 10,000 cycles of expansion. The emergency session called to address the Earth situation crackled with tension, the crystalline chamber reflecting the agitated colors of its occupants. Unacceptable. Grand Strategist Merval's voice resonated through the chamber, her form pulsing with angry red light. A pre-FTL civilization not only rejected our diplomacy but humiliated our fleet. The other protectorate worlds will question our authority if this stands. Supreme Consul Vexera, still smarting from her failed mission, could only agree. The humans' response had shattered millennia of carefully crafted diplomatic procedures. Worse, they had broadcast their success on primitive radio waves that would eventually reach other worlds. The Meridian Empire's reputation for inevitable victory was at stake. We have no choice, Merval continued. Activate the suppression fleet. The suppression fleet was the Empire's ultimate answer to resistance, a force so overwhelming that it had never failed to crush opposition. 100 world ships, each carrying enough firepower to sterilize a planet's surface, emerged from hyperspace around Earth's solar system. Fleet Admiral Zircon, a veteran of 30 successful suppressions, expected the sight alone to force humanity's surrender. Instead, his sensors detected something bizarre. The humans were laughing. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting transmission bursts from Earth. They're sharing jokes about our ship designs, something about compensating for something, and bigger targets are easier to hit." Before Zircon could contemplate this unusual response, the humans demonstrated exactly why they found the massive ships so amusing. Thousands of tiny objects, no larger than ancient chemical missiles, emerged from concealed silos across Earth's surface. The Meridian fleet's automated defenses ignored them. They were too small to register as threats. That was their first mistake. These weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were automated maintenance drones, repurposed from asteroid mining operations. Each one carried a simple payload, a quantum-entangled communication device, and a small amount of antimatter. The humans had figured out that Meridian shields, while impenetrable to energy weapons and kinetic impacts, had a critical weakness. They didn't prevent quantum entanglement. The drones attached themselves to the massive world ships like mechanical parasites. Then, using the entangled communicators to coordinate their actions, they detonated simultaneously. The antimatter payloads were tiny, barely enough to power a small city for a day. But they detonated inside the shields, creating cascading failures in the massive vessel's power systems. Impossible. Zircon watched in horror as 30 world ships went dark in the first wave. Their technology shouldn't allow for quantum entanglement, let alone antimatter containment. The answer came from an unexpected source. A human scientific paper published just weeks before the Meridian's arrival, theorizing about the potential military applications of asteroid mining technology. The humans hadn't developed new technology. They had simply repurposed their existing tools in ways the Meridians had never considered. As the fleet struggled to adapt, humanity revealed their second surprise. The lunar surface, seemingly unchanged since the diplomatic incident, erupted with activity. What the Meridians had dismissed as primitive mining operations were actually massive electromagnetic accelerators. Chunks of moon rock, accelerated to relativistic speeds, tore through the disabled worldships like tissue paper. They turned their entire moon into a weapon. Zircon's tactical officer whispered in awe. They must have been preparing this for months, right under our surveillance. The humans had learned from the diplomatic fleet's visit. They had studied the Meridian's shield technology, found its weaknesses, and developed counters using technology they already possessed. They didn't need to match the Meridian's technological level. They just needed to understand it well enough to exploit its vulnerabilities. But the true horror for the Meridians wasn't just the military defeat, it was the psychological warfare that accompanied it. The humans broadcast every victory, every successful tactic on open channels. They weren't just fighting the Meridian fleet, they were teaching every subjugated species in the galaxy how to resist. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted Zircon's thoughts, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth's Unified Defense Command." The message was simple: impressive fleet. Shame if something happened to the rest of it. Would you like to discuss terms, or should we continue our demonstration? As Zircon prepared to order a retreat, he received one final transmission, this one on a private channel. It contained technical specifications for human mining drones, lunar acceleration technology, and quantum entanglement devices. The message attached read, "Free to share with any other protectorate worlds that might be interested. Consider it our contribution to galactic cultural exchange." The Meridian Empire had made another crucial mistake. They had assumed that humanity's technological limitations would prevent them from mounting an effective defense. Instead, those very limitations had forced humans to become masters of adaptation, turning everyday technology into devastating weapons. The Empire was learning a harsh lesson. It's not the technology you have that matters, but how creatively you use it. The Meridian Empire's high command had never encountered an enemy quite like humanity. Their analysts struggled to understand how a species could turn seemingly harmless civilian technology into devastatingly effective weapons of war. But the humans were just getting started. Deep within a repurposed gaming company's headquarters in Seoul, Dr. Sarah Chen watched streams of data flow across her screens. What the Meridians saw as meaningless entertainment software was actually the heart of Earth's most sophisticated cyber warfare program. Who would have thought that 20 years of developing AI opponents for video games would give us the perfect framework for predicting alien combat tactics? She mused, watching as her system processed another successful prediction of Meridian fleet movements. The gaming industry's neural networks, trained on millions of human players' strategic decisions, had proven remarkably effective at anticipating Meridian military responses. Every strategy game ever played had contributed to a vast database of tactical possibilities that now helped humanity stay 3 steps ahead of their technologically superior opponents. Meanwhile, in orbit, Commander James Rodriguez coordinated Earth's defensive swarm from what appeared to be a civilian broadcasting satellite. In reality, it was the control center for Operation Influencer, possibly humanity's most bizarre weapon yet. "Status report on the TikTok offensive," he asked his young lieutenant, trying to keep a straight face despite the absurdity of the question. "Sir, our social media AI has successfully infiltrated their ship-to-ship communication networks. We're currently flooding their systems with what appears to be 15 million cat videos, each containing encrypted command codes for our dormant virus programs." The Meridians had expected military-grade cyber attacks. Their ship's systems were hardened against traditional electronic warfare. What they hadn't expected was for humanity to weaponize its social media algorithms, systems designed to be as addictive and penetrating as possible. The same technology that could make a dance video go viral was now spreading chaos through their fleet's communication networks. In London, Dr. Emma Watson had discovered another unexpected use for civilian technology. Her team had repurposed weather monitoring systems into a sophisticated alien detection grid. The same algorithms we use to predict hurricane patterns work surprisingly well for tracking their stealth ships, she explained to her colleagues. Turns out cloaking devices create atmospheric disturbances very similar to low-pressure systems. But perhaps the most unexpected weapon came from Silicon Valley, where a team led by Dr. Raj Patel had transformed search engine algorithms into the ultimate military intelligence system. Think about it, he explained to bewildered military officials. We spent decades perfecting software that can understand context, predict user intent, and sort through vast amounts of seemingly unrelated data. Now we're just pointing it at a different kind of search problem. The Meridians discovered this new capability the hard way when they tried to launch a surprise attack on Earth's Mars colonies. Somehow, the humans had anticipated not just the attack, but the exact tactics that would be used. What they didn't know was that Dr. Patel's system had analyzed centuries of science fiction literature, comparing it with actual Meridian battle tactics, and identified patterns that even the Meridians themselves hadn't recognized. "Sir," a junior analyst interrupted Admiral Kexful's strategic meeting, "the humans are doing something strange with their entertainment broadcasts again." The Admiral had learned to dread those words. "What is it this time?" They're broadcasting cooking shows, sir. But our analysts have detected embedded patterns in the recipes that match our encryption protocols. They're literally hiding military intelligence in baking instructions." The Meridians had made yet another miscalculation. They had assumed that civilian technology, being designed for entertainment and convenience, couldn't pose a military threat. They had forgotten that any sufficiently advanced algorithm, designed to understand and predict human behavior, could be turned into a powerful military tool. In a secure facility beneath Seattle, a team of game developers turned military strategists worked on their latest project. If you think about it, one developer commented, "We spent years creating AI that could challenge millions of players simultaneously. Now we're just using it to outthink one very predictable alien empire." The Empire's military analysts were reaching a disturbing conclusion. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their repurposed technology. It was their ability to see potential weapons in everything around them. A species that could turn social media into a military asset and weather forecasting into a defense system was capable of turning absolutely anything into a weapon. As if to prove this point, Earth's defense forces began their next major offensive. The Meridians detected millions of tiny objects launching from Earth's surface. Initial scans identified them as debris, space junk from centuries of satellite launches. Too late, they realized their mistake. Humanity had turned their orbital waste into a vast network of improvised explosive devices, each piece of space junk containing a tiny but potent surprise. "Remember," Dr. Chen told her team as they watched another Meridian fleet retreat in disarray, "they expected us to fight like a military force. They never expected us to fight like an entire civilization." The Meridian Empire was learning that they hadn't just picked a fight with Earth's military. They had challenged human ingenuity itself. And human ingenuity, it turned out, was a far more formidable opponent than any conventional military force. The Meridian Empire's defeat was not marked by a single decisive battle, but by a series of escalating realizations that they were fighting a losing war against an enemy they had fundamentally misunderstood. Supreme Strategist Miraval stood before the High Council, her crystalline form dulled with exhaustion. "We must face an uncomfortable truth. We are not losing this war because the humans are stronger. We are losing because they refuse to fight it the way we expect them to." The latest intelligence reports scrolled across the chamber's holographic displays. Each one documented another impossible adaptation, another unprecedented strategy that shouldn't have worked, but did. They've turned their entire internet infrastructure into a vast quantum computing network, one analyst reported. Every connected device on their planet is now part of a distributed system that's cracking our encryption faster than we can update it. The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't built specialized quantum computers. They had turned their entire planetary communications network into one massive quantum processor. Billions of devices, from smartphones to refrigerators, were now part of Earth's defense system. But the true breaking point came from an unexpected quarter. The Empire's own protectorate worlds had begun acting strangely. Reports flooded in of colonies adopting human practices, repurposing civilian technology, creating decentralized defense systems, and worst of all, sharing their innovations with each other. "Sir," a junior counselor interrupted, "we're detecting unusual activities in the Proxima Centauri system." The humans had established their first extrasolar colony there, a modest settlement that the Empire had dismissed as insignificant. That was before the entire star system went dark, its electromagnetic signature vanishing completely. Admiral Kelthor, commander of the investigation fleet, approached the system with maximum caution. His ship's sensors probed the darkness, seeking any sign of human activity. They found nothing, until it was too late. The humans had turned the entire star system into a trap. Using technology reverse-engineered from captured Meridian ships, they had created a vast cloaking field encompassing the entire system. When Kelthor's fleet passed through the outer boundaries, they found themselves surrounded by thousands of automated defense platforms. "Impossible," Kelthor whispered as his tactical display lit up with warning signals. They couldn't have built all this in such a short time. But they hadn't built it. They had grown it. The humans had developed self-replicating machines using the system's abundant asteroid resources. Each defender platform had constructed copies of itself, creating an exponentially growing defense network that now numbered in the millions. Back on Earth, Dr. Emma Watson's weather prediction network had evolved into something far more sophisticated. "We're not just tracking their ships anymore," she explained to the United Earth Defense Council. "We're predicting their strategic decisions before they make them. Their military doctrine is as predictable as weather patterns, maybe more so." The Meridians discovered this when their attempt to launch a coordinated strike against Earth's major population centers was met with precise counterattacks that had been prepared days in advance. Every contingency they had planned for had already been anticipated and countered. But perhaps the most devastating blow came from what the humans called Project Mirror. Dr. Raj Patel's team had taken the Empire's own surveillance data, collected over years of monitoring Earth, and used it to create perfect simulations of Meridian military decision-making. "Think of it as a very sophisticated game eye," Patel explained. "We've taught our computers to think exactly like Meridian military commanders, which means we know what they're going to do before they do it." The Empire's final offensive ended before it began. Their carefully planned assault formations were met with targeted countermeasures that exploited weaknesses they didn't even know they had. The humans had turned the Empire's own tactical doctrine against them. In the Meridian High Council chamber, Supreme Consul Vexera received a transmission that would effectively end the war. It was a simple data packet, but its contents sent shockwaves through the Empire's leadership. The humans had compiled a comprehensive analysis of every weakness in Meridian technology, every flaw in their military doctrine, and every vulnerability in their social structure. But instead of exploiting these weaknesses, they were offering the information to the Empire, along with suggested solutions. "Consider this a gesture of good faith," the message read. "We don't want to destroy the Meridian Empire. We want to help you become better. After all, isn't that what you claim to want for us?" The Empire that had sought to subjugate humanity now faced an ironic choice: admit defeat or accept help from the very species they had tried to conquer. Either way, the galaxy would never be the same. As one Meridian historian would later write, "In seeking to force humanity to adapt to our way of thinking, we instead found ourselves adapting to theirs. Perhaps that was their most clever strategy of all." 20 years after the Meridian War, the galaxy had changed in ways that no species could have predicted. The massive crystalline spires of the Galactic Concordat rose above New Singapore, Earth's first extraterrestrial diplomatic center, where representatives from 100 species gathered to shape the future of interstellar relations. Ambassador Sarah Chen, once the architect of Earth's cyber warfare program, stood at the podium addressing the assembled delegates. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same skills that had helped humanity win the war now made her exceptionally good at interstellar diplomacy. The old model of galactic civilization was built on technological superiority, she explained. The new model is built on innovation and collaboration. Each species brings its unique perspective, its particular genius, to solve problems that none of us could solve alone. In the decades following the war, humanity had kept its promise. Instead of destroying the Meridian Empire, they had helped transform it. The Empire's rigid hierarchical structure had given way to a more adaptive, collaborative model, one that preserved their remarkable achievements while embracing change and innovation. Former Supreme Consul Vexera, now serving as the Meridian representative to the Concordat, watched from her crystalline observation pod. She had learned to appreciate human unpredictability, even as it continued to surprise her. "They've done it again," she communicated to her aide, watching as Ambassador Chen unveiled humanity's latest initiative. "They found a way to turn our greatest fear into our greatest strength." The initiative was called the Galactic Innovation Network. It was a vast, interconnected system that allowed species across the galaxy to share problems, solutions, and ideas. The same principles that had allowed humanity to transform social media into a weapon of war now enabled unprecedented cooperation between civilizations. In orbit above Earth, the massive structure of the Frontier Academy dominated the view. Here, species from across the galaxy sent their brightest minds to learn not just technology, but creativity and adaptation. The curriculum was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. One day, students might study how to repurpose mining technology for defense. The next, they would learn how to turn entertainment systems into predictive analytics platforms. The key was realizing that technology itself isn't the answer. Dr. Raj Patel, now the Academy's director, explained to a group of new students. "It's how you use it, how you combine it in new ways, how you see possibilities where others see limitations." The Meridians had contributed their advanced technology, the Zixthar their unmatched biological sciences, the Quilleri their mastery of quantum mechanics. But humanity's contribution was perhaps the most valuable. They taught the galaxy how to innovate, how to adapt, how to see every tool as having multiple purposes. In the Proxima Centauri system, where humanity had once created their massive trap, now stood the largest research and development center in known space. The self-replicating machines that had once built weapons now constructed experimental technology, testing new ideas from across the galaxy. Commander Rodriguez, now retired but serving as a consultant, watched a group of young Meridian engineers working alongside human scientists. "They're designing a new type of shield technology," his assistant explained. "It combines Meridian crystal tech with principles from human social network theory. They're calling it a collaborative defense system." But perhaps the most profound change was visible in the younger generations. Species that had once defined themselves by their technological achievements now prided themselves on their ability to innovate and adapt. The rigid hierarchies of the past had given way to flexible, responsive systems inspired by humanity's example. In the High Council chamber on the Meridian homeworld, now transformed into a museum, visitors could read the famous words that had become a cornerstone of galactic philosophy. "The measure of a civilization is not in the power of its tools, but in the wisdom with which it uses them." The galaxy had learned that true advancement wasn't about having the most powerful technology. It was about having the imagination to use what you had in new and unexpected ways. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't their weapons or their tactics. It was their way of thinking, their ability to see possibilities where others saw limitations. As Ambassador Chen concluded her address, she shared a story that had become legend. When the first Meridian ships appeared in our skies, they expected to find a primitive species ready to be uplifted. Instead, they found teachers. Today, we all stand as students and teachers both, learning from each other, growing together, ensuring that no species will ever again mistake technological superiority for true advancement. The galaxy had changed forever. The age of empires built on force had given way to a civilization built on creativity, cooperation, and the endless potential of shared innovation. And it all began because one empire made the mistake of underestimating humanity's greatest weapon, their imagination. Never again became both a warning and a promise. Never again would one species try to dominate another through force. Never again would technological superiority be confused with civilization. And never again would anyone make the mistake of provoking humanity. Though now, they rarely had reason to try.